Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my talk. Thank you for attending, first of all. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story today and the journey we've had with AG5 over the past 2 years. We needed to look at when skills became strategy, how we built a future-ready workforce on the factory floor. And that is predominantly what our business is. As you'll see, I'm going to give you quite a few numbers, so I hope you're ready for those. I'll split it into 4 parts. I'll do the introductions, and then we'll look at the start of our journey. I'll give you the opportunity to ask some questions after that. We'll look at the implementation, the real juicy bits, how that went, and then more questions. And then we'll look at everything I've got to do for the rest of the year in our implementation. It's I won't go into too much detail because that would take up all the time, but we're still just moving forward and driving AG5 in our organisation. So let's start with introductions. As Esme kindly said, my name is Melanie Hinshelwood. Mel is absolutely fine. I'm the Global Training Manager for Edwards Vacuum STCs. That stands for Service Technology Centres, which we have all around the world. Again, I'll give you some more numbers in a while. I'm only committing to say that I've been training for many years in many industries. That's as far as I'm going to go, I'm afraid. And I've been in Edwards over 6 years, but this is my first role in an engineering organisation, which was very enlightening when I joined. I have to say I've really enjoyed. So let's just have a look. Tell you a little bit about Edwards now. Edwards Vacuum, we're part of Atlas Copco Group. Some of you may have heard of them, some of you not. We have approximately 1,400 employees in Edwards Vacuum, but to put that into context, Atlas Copco have over 50,000 employees. So I might consider us a little small fish in a small pond in a very, very big sea. We've got 14 service technology centres in 11 countries. Some of our countries will just have 1 STC. If you take somewhere like China, we've got 4 that will soon be increasing to 5. So we are growing. If you think about the implications of that, languages, cultures, locations, etc., it's very interesting. We remanufacture and service vacuum pumps. This is not Hoovers, as I thought it was when I went for the interview. Vacuum pumps are play a really important part in the world. They really do. They're used in many industries, things like pharmaceutical, food, and of course semiconductor. With over 800 technicians on our shop floors, a combination of over 1,500 different types of pumps, we have a very complex and large amount of product training. And you're going to hear me talk about product training today, but I'm also going to talk about competencies, or as we call them, job skills. But with product training, that alone presents a really nice challenge. So with all those achievements and, to record digitally and all the requirements to record digitally, it really is quite a challenge. So let's start at the beginning. Always a good place to start. 2 years ago, where were we? How were we recording our training, and what objectives did we have to get our shop floor workers on to AG5? Our product training records were in Excel. There's no surprise there, I'm sure, from most of you. They're all in Excel. We had nearly 30 Excel files, and in each location, we could have up to 3 files, 1 representing each product group. So we not only had all these 1,500 types of files, but they were split into 3 product groups. Each product group file would have an average of 8 sheets. And each sheet could have more than 20 technicians on each sheet. Really lots and lots of data. The process itself that those sheets represent, to give you an idea of how a service technology centre works, could represent decontamination, to inspection, to assembly, to systemisation, to painting, to test, to finishing, and then packing. So we could have all of those processes, all very different, for each of the product types as well. So hopefully now you're getting the picture of the challenge and how complicated our organisation is. So what we needed a solution that would give us the understanding of our training regionally, globally, but also past, present and future. We needed to know how long our training takes. I know it sounds obscure, but we really didn't have that data of, I was asking, how long does it take to train on this particular product? We need to know who can deliver skills transfer, who can deliver cross-training, which is also very important for us, and who's got the experience to learn and train others for new products that we consistently come out with as well. So, as in all manufacturing organisations, we are always looking to improve our safety, our efficiency, and our quality. Absolutely key. Career development for each individual is important to keep our attrition rates low and get the best out of our employees. By working with them and giving them the tools to explore different career paths, but also their personal development, and make sure they can see the opportunities within our organisation for their future careers. The majority of our training, we do have an LMS, and it is within the learning management system. But we needed a solution to record our product training and our job skills. And we couldn't do that. Obviously, we did look at our LMS first of all, but it couldn't give us some of the key things that we need. So to summarise for you, we have 1,541 different product skills in 352 PLCPs. PLCP is what we call a Product Learning Certification Programme. And we have 350 of those. Now, we don't expect everyone to learn every one of those. That is completely impossible. But some of our technicians have been with us a long, long time, and they will actually know quite a lot of them, nowhere near, not even 100, but, maybe a couple of dozen in those different processes. So with approximately 800 technicians, that's covered. But then on top of that, we have another 500 roles that we need to look at competencies or job skills for and make sure they have the right skills to perform the role they're currently in and to be able to look at future roles as well. So, what was the objectives? We needed, first of all, we knew we needed to digitalise our product learning certification programme. We needed a programme that's going to comply with our legal requirements. We needed a programme that's going to meet our internal and external requirements, audit requirements. We don't want to fail our audits. We need to minimise that. We needed a process that's going to track skill sets, ensure easier skill transfers, and ensure that we have business continuity, and to have transparent and available product training records. Sounds simple, but when you're on the shop floor, how do you access your training records? How do you know what you've done and what you haven't done? So we needed that to be transparent and available. We needed to support our journey to paperless operations. We're all striving for that, being environmentally friendly. To support global reporting, we need to look at our gap analysis, refresher training reminders, reducing, we're always trying to reduce admin and our manual work. I think that's an objective of everyone. And then we needed a solution that was going to enable more robust factory simulation. So planning and integration with MES in the future. So introduction of AG5, here's our figures that I've gone through with you. 1,541 skills within those PLCPs, 6 regions, 14 locations. Let's just move into 15. So we need to ask ourselves, what are our product objectives? What do we need to look at for our end goal when we started out? What do we need from an application? What would our KPIs be? How do we ensure that it's a system that everyone can access and use? Individuals, managers, and our SLT, our senior leadership team. Making sure we're encouraging everyone to take the responsibility for their personal and career development. We needed to ensure all of our language requirements could be met. We have a few. We actually have, including English, 9 languages. We needed to consider the fact we are very decentralised. And that can be challenging, but it also can be an asset as well. We had to ensure the structure we set up could be used in other areas of the organisation, keeping their costs to a minimum and creating other benefits for the mobility of our workforce. So how do our repositories look and what is the structure? We're going to look at that in a second, but first of all, Let's see if anyone's got any questions from all of those numbers that I've thrown at you so far and all of those facts and objectives.
Can you please define the definition of the skill and how you approached it?
I'm going to do that. Probably easier if I show you in the next section where we look at our job skills.
Okay.
And I'll show you how we've grouped those, how many we have, and then how we levelled them by job code. If that's okay, and you don't mind waiting. You're going to spoil it otherwise. Okay. Any other questions at all? That must have been crystal clear. I'm impressed. Okay, keep thinking because we're now going to look at the implementation. So this is how we implemented AG5 to the 6 regions, 14 locations, and in 8 languages, well, nine languages. So a total of approximately 800 technicians. Then we followed on, because we hadn't had enough, with our 500, I guess we can call them white-collar employees, to develop their competencies as well. So there's a reminder of some of our numbers. We had many questions when we first viewed AG5. We had a complex setup. We knew that. It was never going to be just the STCs. We had colleagues in other areas like field service, our product companies, our division, and other areas that showed an interest. So this had to be considered at every stage of when we implemented, because we wanted to collaborate with them. We knew we could offer a bigger picture. So with the guidance of the AG5 team, thank goodness, and our knowledge, we developed a solution to our repository structure and rolled AG5 into most of our STCs. So we ended up with a regional repository structure and a repository to administer our PLCPs. Remember what I said about keeping administration to a minimum. So, we started a pilot in February 2024 in Korea. I'm not quite sure why I chose Korea, but we did choose Korea. There were some good reasons. And then completed that 2 months later in mid-April. We knew that if we could make this a success in Korea, then it was going to be, great to roll out around the world. The reason being that in Korea, we have one of our most complex service technology centres that cover an immense amount of products, all 3 product groups. So that was why we did choose Korea. Korea went live, and we finished that in mid-May. Then we had 11 more sites completed by the end of 2024. Then we had 2 further sites go live in January. It was very busy, January 25. And then the final location went live earlier this year in January. And there was lots of reasons behind that. It was making sure we were ready for that. So this is what we ended up with. We ended up with our regions. We had a repository for each region from AG5, and then in the top, to keep our administration down to a single point of administration, ensure consistency in the training documents everywhere, we had a repository above all of that with our product learning certification programming. Okay, so it started nice and simply. Somehow it didn't end that way. So just to give you an idea of how we look in AG5, this is an example of one of our many, many matrix. One PLCP, so when I'm talking about PLCPs, you can now see these up here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 examples of them. And they can have just a few modules, right up to 15, 20 modules in each one. So one can be a much more complex training program than another, depending on which product and also what part of the process it is, decontamination or systemization. This one shows generic skills. That's why there's lots of green dots on there and lots of reds. I chose that wisely. But these are the generic skills that most of our employees need to complete. So this is the other side of it. This is the gap analysis within the matrices. This is what our team leaders see. This enables them to do easier planning. They can prioritise where they've got gaps, ensure they're prepared for business continuity, and numbers can easily be adjusted in the event of increase in demand from customers. And we do see this a lot. All of a sudden we will have to increase because we will get lots of pumps coming back from one particular area in one particular industry. So this is a real asset for our team leaders. So the implementation, how did we get to that repository structure? We supplied the data to AG5 and they kindly transferred it for us into AG5 from the Excel spreadsheets. We did have to do a little bit of work on those, but it was, thank goodness, transferred by AG5. Along with our employee records. We developed bespoke training that was applicable to our process, and we delivered it in local language. So we had to then translate that all into local language as well. And we had a local training specialist in each region that could deliver that and help with the translations. They were also the first line of support as it was implemented. We reviewed our processes for entering Achieve training and changed the responsibility to the technicians. That was a big change because we were giving them responsibility for their own training and recording and career development. The evaluations we also have, so we have evaluators and then we have team leaders, and we had to give them clear direction as well. During the second phase, as we had more sites going live, we added a few features that made life easier. So in June 24, we added single sign-on. People and passwords, never a good combination. So single sign-on really made a big difference. In June 25, we created and added the job skills, as we were talking about, to the rest of our workforce for all job roles in the STCs. And then in December 25, we linked to our HR platform. That made a significant change because it reduced our admin significantly. It meant it was automated update of all employees if they changed managers or changed roles, and also new starters and leavers as well. And with over 80,000 product skills, 36,000 job skills in AG5, that's what we have across 6 regions. But it is important we have a clear, user-friendly application that our employees can understand and use into the day-to-day training as well as longer-term planning as well. So AG5 is now being used in other areas of our organisation, and as they've seen the benefits that we've gone through. And before we look at our current structure, we're going to look at the job skills side of it and how we introduce that in our second phase. So implementing job skills. We've got approximately 50 job skills, and those are across there. And we've got them in 8 groups. So the job skills themselves, 50 job skills, I'll start again. We've got 50 job descriptions in our STCs. So we've got workshop technician, ops manager, specialist, training specialist, manufacturing engineer, I could go on, but many more. Our job skills are grouped. For example, we've got core behavioural skills, as you can see here. We've also got functional skills, but we have things like project management skills, leadership skills, technology skills as well. We've tried to limit that as much as possible, as we have with our job descriptions, without complicating it too much. So we have approximately 100 job skills to cover those job roles. We don't actually use all of them. They are there for other areas of our organisation. So where required for the job role, we assigned a level to the job skill. So this is what you can see down here. For example, if you look at customer focus, you can see a manufacturing engineer in an STC needs a level 1, whereas we'd expect a regional engineering manager to have a level 3 ability in that job skill. Still with me so far? That one. Okay. So implementing this in 2025, around the middle of last year, we started this. First of all, we translated all of the job skill descriptions, all of the level descriptions into every language that we needed. And then we had to work out how we were going to distribute that. So these were then imported into AG5, and they were assigned to each person according to their job code. So it was critical we had the job codes correct as well. So this added approximately another 500 users to AG5, and the aim was to develop their job skills where needed for the role they're currently in, but also for the role they may want to move to in the future. Our one-to-one conversations between manager and team member, they actually could use their AG5 self-assessments as an agenda. So we actually had a solid agenda for those conversations, probably for the first time. Obviously, some managers would have one, but quite a lot wouldn't. So then they could have a clear gap analysis. Their personal development or career development could be planned. It was supported because we set up accessible training. We set up a whole resource of looking at other people's careers, how they progress through the organisation, and giving them the tools to develop certain skills that they maybe were not as proficient in as they needed to be for that role. So we also had other areas looking for solutions to their training records being digitalised. So we collaborated and worked with AG5 to build a repository that would work with those other areas of the organisation, but still ensuring we had our own levels for skills against job codes. But we needed to maximise that opportunity for internal mobility, giving people the opportunity to look for another role. So the feature of potential position, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but in AG5 there is an option of potential position where an employee can click on that and say, well, I don't want to be a workshop technician anymore. In our organisation, I want to be a failure analysis engineer. And they can look at that and say, well, what skills have I got already and where do I need to develop? So it's a really great feature for ensuring we can encourage that mobility. So I'll just move this down. So we've needed to manage and minimise our administration. So again, with the support of AG5, we developed our repositories to include a larger business area. So let's look at where we are now. So what I showed you earlier is still here, but it's this section here. This is all of what we had with our regions. And there's some of my colleagues up here apparently supporting me. But we had field service, who have also very key to our operate, well, everyone is, and BSS division. So the way this was set up, it meant that we can look at anyone within these parts of the organisation. These colours represent each area of the business. But here, we have the control to change our levels of each job code. So, for example, a field service technician is on site at a customer site. So the job skill for customer focus for them needs to really be at a level 3. But an STC technician doesn't see the customer. They're in one of our centres, remanufacturing and servicing the pumps. So customer focus for them, we might have at a level 1. So if a technician wants to become field service, they may say, great, I've got level 1 customer focus, but I need to get to a level 3 if I want to go and work in field service. So we had that control between those 3 areas. And this then gives all of our employees, so just also I will mention VSC and Sun either have or are getting AG5 as well. In fact, Sun's represented here as well by Ian and Matthias. But there's nothing to say they can't be brought into that, which I think we're going to look at doing, being brought into that job skills, so we can then go further afield and offer even more opportunities for mobility and keep our attrition to the minimum. So,
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can, yes.
Which of these repositories is actually end user facing? Where can I see, or which ones are these?
These ones, all down here.
Below, yeah.
So these are our regional ones. So every employee in the region can see these repositories and see their personal records in there and their personal career development. These ones really are from administration. So this one is where all of our job skills are, which are competencies, and we have governance and that control whatever's changed in there, where all stakeholders agree. So even if it's the description of one level of one job skill, we have agreement that it will change, or why it won't change, or to add another skill. Trying to keep your job skills minimal, which is manageable, is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Because everyone thinks they've got all these skills, when actually if you look, it's already under another skill. So that's quite challenging. These are the employee-facing ones. These ones are really for administration, to make sure there's consistency in those ones below.
So each employee manager is actually only using one link.
Yeah. So each employee only uses one link. So if I've got someone in Singapore or Kulim here, or Taiwan, they will only see their record, to be honest.
Yep.
You know, but a manager and myself, I can see everyone in Asia. Okay,
Thank you.
that's right. You're welcome. Just put the glasses on so I can see again. So this now, the only final part of that I want to say is that section at the bottom is a total of over 3,500 employees. That improves what they can see and where they are able to move within the organisation, hopefully not losing but keeping our employees. I was going to say let's go to questions. So has anyone else got any questions on that? Yes.
It sounds like you have skill levels defined potentially for each skill.
Yes.
So it's not a generalized, okay. And it also sounds like you have your employees self-assessing on those skills.
We do, to start with.
So they're using the rubric or the levels that you've already built out, and they're saying, I believe I am a 2, a 3, a 4, and then the manager gives feedback and says, I believe.
Yeah. You're actually higher or lower, or that's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So the first step of this process is really starting with that frontline employee, looking at their skills and holding the skills personally.
At one point, that's where the manager requests them to sit and do their own self-assessment, to give them a chance to think about that on their own. Where do they think they are? And then the second step is to have that conversation with their manager, and the manager say, yes, I can see why you think that, but maybe if we just do a little bit of training here, and then we've got all the resource to our LMS, but also some self-pointers about how you can improve, for example, your accountability. So we have some self-pointers for that as well. So the training's available, the development's available, and we've got an agenda for those one-to-one conversations that don't always happen, but now we know they do happen, you know, and it's becoming really important for managers as well as their teams.
How much of that structure existed before AG5 and how much of it,
Hard to say.
okay, a little
It
variable?
wasn't digitally recorded.
Okay.
It did exist in some cultures more than others, we found. So when I went out to look at some of the regions, it was definitely available more in some of our regions and our countries, because it is part of that expectation. But I couldn't find a massive amount of evidence of it happening on a regular basis, which I think is fairly normal. When I look back at my career and I think about my one-to-one conversations, maybe once a year. Is it an annual review? Is it a one-to-one? What is it exactly? So, yeah.
Thank you.
One question, you're talking about self-assessments, we're using AG5, we do not use it very much, these self-assessments, because we're more working with like certificates.
Mhm.
So is it more, do you also have those like the required skills, like you need to have an engineering degree A1, by example, to do that function? Is that also something you register, or is it really more about being able to do the things you need to do in a certain level?
Yeah. So there's two parts to it. The product training, which is actually hands-on for our blue collar workers, being able to decontaminate a pump that comes in full of poisonous gases, or being able to systemize it and put it back together, or being able to paint it. So there's all those skills that we don't have any requirements for, apart from what is on our PLCP, what it says they need to do, which SOP they have to follow, the different skills there. So that's one part of it. We don't have the requirements of things like degrees, etc., comes in the recruitment, which is why it's really interesting what Anita was saying about, how we say you've got to have this, that, and whatever else. Some of our technicians have been with us over 30 years. They certainly don't have degrees, but they've got a lot of experience. So I can't see us measuring that or bringing that in. But it is about training, making sure they're trained. When we train product, we then train 3 evaluations on average. So you're trained, you then have to be observed, then you're trained to competent, then you're allowed to work on your own. Until that, you're supervised. So yes. Does that answer your question? Sorry. And then we've got the competencies, which is separate.
Is the training platform integrated? So is the training assignment happening automatically and then the
Our LMS is integrated, but we don't need to use it. because what we're looking at, the LMS is a different tool altogether. This is, AG5 is not our LMS.
Yeah.
AG5 is all about our skills, both competencies and job skills and product skills as well. We have got one area of the organisation, which is our field service. They are using that integration that we've got because they have things recorded in the LMS.
Yeah.
They need to bring across. It's another very different, but you can speak to Ilias afterwards. He's very knowledgeable on it, but that is an option as well. So, but we just don't need it. I don't need to know in AG5 that everyone's done their code of conduct training. I can look in our LMS to that, and I don't need it at two places.
Good.
So, hello.
Yeah, maybe you already gave the answer, but that means the last thing you said, you don't have a qualification planning in AG5, and you do that in...
Not qualification planning, no. It is all about the competencies. That's what we're really looking at as well. As I say, we've got people that have been with us many, many years, and that's probably the majority of our workforce have been with us a long time as engineers. They don't move.
I can't hide myself from doing the assumption that you were a very conservative company. Well, how did this change landed in this business?
I think
I can imagine it was a massive change for the employees.
it is a massive change, and I can't go back further than 6 years because that's when I joined. All I'll say is it was quite a shock to me that we didn't have any digital training records on product when I turned up. I've been in a software house, I've been in an NGO, I've been in hospitality. So I've never been in an engineering. And then I was told, well, it's quite normal. There's some really large manufacturing companies out there that, they store it in Excel. And I'm like, really? This can't be true. It's like, no, it really is true. So I think for me, the first thing was to get all of the job descriptions aligned, because we were all over the place where, the bottom line was our workshop technicians all needed the same job description, the same job code in our LMS, which would lead on to this. And then, go from there really. So, it's probably been quite a shock to quite a lot of people, but I think in a good way. People can actually see their training. They know what product they're allowed to fix. It improves our safety. The first place that my boss, who's the senior SHE manager for the group, goes to when there's an incident, a near miss, hopefully rarely, but the first place he goes is into AG5. Has that person been trained on that product that they were working on with those tools? And that's the first. It's improved that massively. It's on doing my business impact. Are we doing? Sorry, did some question?
Your question? It was more for me to understand your job skills, your product skills, and of course you also have your procedures. Are your procedures part of your job and product skills, since they also have proficiency?
They are part of the product skills because we have our SOP. Everyone's familiar with SOPs. We have our SOPs within those PLCPs, so it will tell you which SOPs you have to go through, and they have to be followed in all of our. There are processes in all of our remanufacturing and servicing, but they are within each module of each of those PLCPs. Yeah, so our processes are, and then we have lots of other processes that obviously have to be followed. We have safety processes, etc.
Yeah, of course, because procedures require also different skills.
Yes.
So I wanted to understand how you organize that.
Yeah, they're within the main ones for our service, order process, so SOPs, are within the product learn. And there's a lot of acronyms. I do apologise. It's still 6 years on. I'm still struggling with some of them. But yeah, they are within the training programs, those processes, which are critical to being done right, which is why we evaluate and make sure that they can, perform what they've been trained, so they're evaluated several times. Hello.
Do you measure or do you see any impact on retention? Because I can imagine on one hand it's a big change, on the other hand it gives a lot of transparency for me if I was a frontline worker to say what are my opportunities, how can I develop?
It's early days, so we've only really been on this. Some sites have only had AG5 a year, and we measure quarterly our attrition rates. So it's something I think in the next 12 to 24 months we'll be able to see if that is a significant change on attrition. But attrition is impacted by so many other things, and I think Anita, touched on that earlier, that it's impacted by so many things at the moment. If this just plays a small part in it but has an impact, then great.
I think we
I was gonna say, shall I just do the third? I might be answering some of your questions in the third part of this. So, the future. Where are we going? And what are we planning for the next sort of 8 to 12 months? So, we've got training data that we can analyse. We know how much we have achieved, the training we've completed, and we can plan for the training that needs to be delivered as well. Our self-assessments continue to be rolled out. We've been sent to over 60% of employees, and that's since June last year, so I'm really pleased with that. And nearly 40% of those have been completed. That means those one-to-one conversations have happened. The job skills structure we have is shared across different 3 areas of the organisation: the field service, the STCs, and our VSS division as well. Mouse has gone to sleep. We do keep both of those measures separate, product skills and job skills competencies, because they are very different. So it's really important in any measures we do or gap analysis, they are separate. They do not roll over or combine into each other. So what do we measure? We measure the compliance of our product training assignments. We measure the self-assessment requests, and we measure the completions of those and the compliance percentage of those as well, which we're easily able to do in AG5 because we've set up matrix groups just to be able to put those into insights, and it gives me an instant percentage of completion. We measure what's waiting to be approved. We sometimes find we've got a bit of a bottleneck. I had one recently, but unfortunately the person had been off sick for 3 weeks. So it's important that we stay on top of that and say that training has been done. It needs to be approved and pushed through. We measure how much training has been delivered recently. So if there's a lull, it's like, okay, why are you not doing any training? Is it you've had no new starters, or, is there no cross-training happening? Are you too busy? So we can keep an eye on that from a high level and support where necessary as well. And we make sure that our process is being followed. The correct employees are entering the relevant data. We want the people initially trained to enter and say, I have been trained. We want the evaluators to say, I have evaluated and they've passed. And we want their managers to say, that's done. We know that that's done now, so they can keep track of what training's going on within their teams. So that's all really important. I'm sure there's more to measure, and there will be. The future. So we need to make sure our processes are followed. Until we have our dashboard, I'll come on to that in a second. And at the moment, I'm doing fairly regular, or not only me, but we're doing fairly regular audits. We're in early days, just to make sure that it's the data is going in correctly and enough. We are creating a dashboard. So that's in the middle of it. I'm really excited about that because we will have lots of other measurements that we need. So we are creating a dashboard using the Open API from AG5, and we'll get our global analysis from that as well, because we do need a global analysis. But for such a small percentage of our people, the important part is the regions that we've done already. We're going to create, a suite of videos. So we have a little tool that we use, and I can create some videos for making sure that new starters come in, and AG5 is part of their onboarding. This is what you use. As much as you use our HR system, our LMS, you use AG5 as well. So suite of videos to be created. And we are going to add local training. So at the moment, we have a lot of training that's specific to that region or that country or that site. Forklift truck training, nearly, in each country is different. It might last for a year, the licence. It might last for 3 years. But we need that reminder. At the moment, guess where it is? It's in Excel spreadsheets. So we need to bring that in specifically. So reminders are sent to the manager and to the employee over, in a advance notice of what we decide. Is it 3 months? Is it 1 month? So that's got to come in. I've got to do that 14 times. So that will be a big plus as well. We are going to add language skills. The thought process behind this is because we do a lot of cross-training, not only across an STC, not only across a region, but also around the globe. And even if it's in a region, if you look at EMEA, we have 3 languages. We have Hebrew, we have Czech, and we have Irish. So where we have those languages, if we can work out a common global levelling of language skills, you might see it as basic, holiday, language, you might see it as, conversational, business, or fluent. We've got to work that out, because if you go to some countries, I think Japan, for example, they have 10 levels of what they, grade their language skills on. Well, but that doesn't apply in other countries. We've got to come up with something, so it's not as easy as it sounds just to add language skills. We need to continue to collaborate with our colleagues everywhere else. So as they look at AG5 as a solution, or they're implementing it, we have an AG5 user group that we all get together, even though we're decentralised, and we share ideas and help each other and support each other. And I think as they adopt AG5, it gives our employees more opportunities for their career development. So that's our repository structure, to remind you. This is likely to grow and expand, and AG5 becomes part of the onboarding process. So we've got, all sorts of things happening within there. Business impact, what's it been? So safety first, always safety first. And as I said earlier, our senior SHE manager can now go straight into AG5 and see what training has happened, if there's any incidents at all. And make sure it's clear what training they have received. Sorry, my mouse is just stuck. Quality, by ensuring training is planned around our forecast, we can deliver training to meet our future needs. And having our gap analysis, we can it makes it clearer to see, so we can actually plan for the future as well. For succession planning, even last minute absence is easier to manage by looking at a matrix, seeing who can cover absence, and easier deployment of the skills needed to the job requirement. Employee engagement in their job skills and competencies, that's improved significantly with understanding of what job skills are needed for which role, and for an individual to develop into that new role as they develop their career. We also have transparency for product training and individual skills. They're all within AG5 and listed clearly, showing if the required level has been met or there is further training required. There's no longer need to find a laptop, because they can of course do it on the app on their phones or tablets, which is a massive asset as well, because we don't have an abundance of laptops on our shop floor. And if we do have, they are being used. They're being used by team leaders for parts and all sorts of things that they need to do. Our one-to-one conversations with an agenda is encouraging the development of skills that our employees need for the role, if they're not already there, and the skills they need for that career development again. And in 24 months, which is where our journey's at, it's around about this time, that is 24 months we first started implementing Career, we've defined the capability of our workforce. This in turn has determined what we have, what we can, and what we will achieve. That's it.
Maybe
Not
let's
too
take
far.
time for 3 questions, and all the
That's
other
fine.
questions can be asked
You
during
can ask me at
lunch.
lunch.
Yeah?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, so
But
3
it's off
questions.
camera.
What was the most challenging part of the whole implementation?
I think the most challenging part was looking to the future. Where do we want to be, and how are we going to set AG5 up with all those repositories? How is it going to work? And luckily we did have the guidance of AG5. We could put across what we needed, but the skills were there, from our support to say, well, if you look at it, this can work this way. And we've made adjustments as we've gone along. When I say we, I mean AG5. But we have made adjustments. But that, I think, was the most challenging, making sure we're future-proof. You're in charge.
Yeah. And then in the back, yes.
What were the main reasons to partner with AG5? As I sit next to Rick, so I can safely
I need to
ask.
speak carefully about this answer. No, the reasons were, it wasn't me that first found AG5, it was a colleague, and said, look at this, this application, because he believed it could meet what we want. We hadn't even thought of some of that, like the job skills and things like that going into it. And initially it was for our product training. And we found that, you speak to them, they're just great, fun on them, great, responsive, to what we needed, flexible. So yeah, that was the reasoning.
Okay, so the last question is for you.
you said very definitively that job skills and SOP skills are very different, and you don't see them interacting. Why?
Why? Because the job skills or competencies, as you might know, that we call them job skills because I think it's labelled job skills, they're really about things like behavioural. Even our functional ones don't go down to being able to use the talk wrench. You know, we don't have anything like that in there. They are literally, struggling for the word really, but behavioural technology, leadership, project management, they're all skills that you can teach in a different way. But with the product skills, they're really specific. We need engineers on those product skills. They are about using the torque wrench. They are about stripping down an IXH 100 CRS pump, you know, and being able to not poison yourself. They are completely different, and the training requirements are different as well. All of our job skills are related to job codes. If that's your job code, they're the skills that you need to that level to do that job as far as we are concerned. There are exceptions, and the system is flexible enough that we can put those exceptions in, put personal requirements in. But the product skills, I mean, I haven't got any product skills at all, and I'm not likely to get any. So they are very specific to our remanufacturing process.
Okay,
Is that okay?
that's it. Give her another applause.
Thank you, everyone.